All right, this Baltimore mayor stuff is going insane. First, he gets $160,000 car.
Price of Mayor Brandon Scott's $163,000 executive vehicle matches the cost of some home prices in Baltimore City, and sometimes it exceeds it.
A 2025 Jeep Grand Wagoneer assigned to the mayor that cost taxpayers $163,495.
Then when people called him out on it, he pulled the race card.
You didn't answer the question. How do you justify the cost of this to the taxpayers of Baltimore, the people who...
In your racist slant, there's one thing.
Then he gives his wife's non-for-profit $62,000 that disappeared.
Our investigation found that Mrs. Scott's employer received an influx of taxpayer money shortly after pairing up with the mayor. And now that organization is pausing operations.
The Baltimore Children and Youth Fund sent taxpayer dollars to an organization that employs Mayor Brandon Scott's wife.
BCYF's latest nonprofit tax form from fiscal year 2024 shows it sent $62,500 to Be More Empowered, where Hannah Scott, the wife of Mayor Scott, is listed as a director of operations.
You cannot have money just disappear.
Then when officials wanted to look at the books, the mayor redacted all the information and said he's not giving up nothing.
Baltimore City Mayor Brandon Scott's office is struggling to explain how it received and spent money from the taxpayer-backed Baltimore Children and Youth Fund. Fallout continues over the mayor's decision to bar his inspector general from access to certain city records.
Very big redactions.
The IG arguing it's the first time in her 8-year career a local subpoena has been blocked.
So let's talk about the crazy mayor of Baltimore, Maryland. You know what we all do? Put off going to the doctor. Be honest. When was the last time you needed to go to the doctor, but you had some excuse like, I'm too busy, I heal on my own, or even the whole dreaded, I don't know which doctor to go to. Yeah, we've all been there. Booking a doctor's appointment feels like a hassle, but guess what? ZocDoc makes it extremely easy. Now, it's funny, we've all woken up and our eye was swollen, we got some rash that we don't know what it is, so we're looking at something on our body and saying, hey, this is not normal. Hit the Google rabbit hole, trying to figure out what it looks like. But listen, you can skip all that. ZocDoc helps you find real doctors, not some TikTok diagnosis. And let's be real, when it comes to your health, you shouldn't really be settling. Just imagine having a therapist who only has openings mid-work day. That's really not ideal. Or a doctor who has a 6-month waiting time. Now with ZocDoc, you get options. It's a free app or website where you can search, compare, and instantly book in-network doctors across every specialty. Mental health, dental, primary care, urgent care, you name it. Now you can filter by insurance, location, availability, even ratings. It's up to you. Most appointments happen between 24 and 72 hours, even some on the same day. Now, I use ZocDoc, and so should you. Stop putting it off. Head to ZocDoc.com/Nate the Lawyer to find a book of top-rated docs of the day. Now, that's ZocDoc.com/Nate the Lawyer. Link is in the description in the pinned comment. Welcome to Baltimore, Maryland, home of Mayor Brandon Scott.
And as expected, Democrat Brandon Scott will be the next mayor of Baltimore City. Scott won big, getting more than 70% of the vote to just 20% for Bob Wallace and 6% for Shannon Wright.
Now, there was a lot of hope. The youngest mayor ever, new energy, and all of that. And to be fair, he's got some wins. Crime is down. Murders are at a 50-year low in Baltimore. Vacant buildings are down 25%, and the population in Baltimore actually grew in 2024. CBS even did a whole puff piece walking around Baltimore with them, talking about how great things are going.
But since 2019, when Baltimore's murder rate hit an all-time high and ranked among the worst in the nation, something has changed. The number of vacant buildings is down 25%. The population actually grew in 2024, and murders have hit a nearly 50-year low.
That's a beautiful story, right? In most left-wing cities, we can't say things like crime is down and people are moving in. It's generally the opposite. This is probably one of the greatest comeback stories in the country right now. All right, so now that we're done with that, let's talk about what that news piece didn't cover. All of the controversies. So here's where things start getting interesting. Mayor Scott's wife, Hannah Scott, works at a not-for-profit called Be More Empowered. Be More for Baltimore Empowered. She's the, quote, director of operations, and she started in September of 2021, before she was married to the mayor. Now, the mayor started dating his wife, Hannah Scott, in 2022. And wouldn't you know it, right after they paired up, her not-for-profit started getting taxpayer money. Funny how that works.
the fabulous, phenomenal, brilliant, and beautiful women of Be More Empowered who are empowering. Yeah, let's clap. There we go.
That was Mayor Brandon Scott at a July 2023 press conference where he praised leaders of a nonprofit awarded $80,000 as a part of a taxpayer-funded program. What he didn't mention was that one of those leaders he praised was his then girlfriend and now wife. Our investigation found that Mrs. Scott's employer received an influx of taxpayer money shortly after pairing up with the mayor. And now that organization is pausing operations. Mrs. Scott started working as the director of operations for Be More Empowered in September 2021. She started dating the mayor in 2022. Her employer began to receive money through the Baltimore city government in 2023, totaling $34,950 taxpayer dollars by 2024. And that's not all. The Downtown Partnership of Baltimore awarded Be More Empowered $80,000 through a taxpayer-funded program in July 2023, a day before the Scotts went public with their relationship through a pregnancy announcement. The taxpayer-backed Baltimore Children and Youth Fund sent Be More Empowered $62,500 from July 2023 to June 2024. Meanwhile, Be More Empowered has not filed a tax form since 2023, meaning it's almost a year behind its required filings with the IRS. And none of its previous tax forms mention Mrs. Scott's position or salary.
So just so we're on the same page, the mayor's wife is working as the director of operations for this nonprofit, but they can't find her name on any of the listings. They don't know how much she's getting paid. And the city starts dumping hundreds of thousands of dollars into this not-for-profit, which then suddenly ceases operations when people start asking questions.
A nonprofit tied to Mayor Brandon Scott's wife stopped operations after receiving roughly $100,000 taxpayer dollars.
All right, so if you're keeping score, we're talking about a roughly $160,000 in taxpayer money connected to this non-for-profit that employs the mayor's wife, and that's just what we know about. So now, this is where things get really, really interesting with Be More Empowered. See, the partnership that gave Be More Empowered that $80,000 of taxpayer money, it was to open a storefront on North Howard Street in Baltimore. So the news media went there and the location was all boarded up. So then they went and asked, well, what did you do with the money? Because you didn't obviously use it to open a storefront. Then they claimed they opened another storefront on North Charles Street in Baltimore. The reporters went there too, and the office space was also empty and listed for rent.
Spokesman for the Downtown Partnership told Spotlight on Maryland the grant to Be More Empowered was supposed to help the organization open a storefront location on North Howard Street. However, when we visited the location, it was boarded up. The spokesman told us Be More Empowered ended up opening the storefront on North Charles Street. However, when we visited this location, it was listed as an office space for rent. The spokesman also added that Be More Empowered is no longer a part of its program and has yet to submit documentation of how it spent the grant money.
So what were they using the money for? It wasn't for the rent because they were sued in court because they weren't paying the rent.
Our further investigation led us to the courthouse where Spotlight on Maryland pulled documents showing Be More Empowered was sued in September for not paying rent at its North Charles Street office. The documents state nobody from Be More Empowered showed up in court and the organization was ordered to pay rent with interest.
So obviously there's something very, very wrong with Be More Empowered because as soon as people started asking questions, they disappeared. Now, other than funneling hundreds of thousands of dollars to his wife's non-for-profit, which could be a conflict of interest, the mayor has some other problems with spending the city's money. Okay, now let's talk about the mayor's ride because this one is something special. See, the mayor is driving around in a 2025 Jeep Grand Wagoneer that cost taxpayers $163,000. Now, the SUV itself was about $98,000, and with the luxury and security upgrades, they paid an extra $65,000 for it. Now, that number may seem okay, but let me put it in context. The governor of the state of Maryland, his name is Wes Moore, he runs the entire state, and he drives around in a Chevy Suburban that costs $82,000, half of what the mayor of the city of Baltimore is driving around in.
Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott is brushing off questions about his taxpayer-funded SUV. It comes as Spotlight on Maryland has learned it is the most expensive executive vehicle in the state, costing more than $55,000, more than the next highest government vehicle.
Governor Wes Moore's 2025 Chevrolet Suburban costs about $72,000, with roughly $10,000 in security upgrades, a total of $82,141. Scott's vehicle price breaks down differently. about $98,000 for the SUV itself and nearly $65,000 in security upgrades. A 99% price difference, almost double.
So yeah, this is another Tiffany Henyard for sure. But the mayor of Baltimore wanted to defend himself. Here's what he said about the cost of that vehicle.
Base price of SUVs now are, as you know, between $90,000 and $100,000.
Spotlight on Maryland fact-checked that claim. A 2026 Jeep Grand Wagoneer MSRP starts below $65,000. A 2026 Chevrolet Suburban starts around $63,000. And a 2026 Ford Expedition starts near $62,000. Prices well below what the mayor says.
All right, so you can get the vehicle for $60,000 and not the $90,000 the mayor said. Well, we may be talking about different years, right? A car from 2022 is going to cost less than a car from 2026. So that's what the mayor's going to say. We're talking about cars from different years.
A vehicle that was purchased in 2023 is not the same price as 2025. Right? You have to understand that reality. When you look at, I'm talking, you can let me talk, please. We heard your question. You've asked the same idiotic question now for 3 months.
So Spotlight on Maryland ran the numbers to see if the mayor was right, comparing only 2025 vehicles with records we obtained. These 4 county executives have vehicles in the price range of $51,000 to $77,000. Governor Moore, $82,000. Mayor Scott, $163,000.
So the mayor got tired of trying to justify why he spent double what anybody else is spending on cars. He just said the reporter, who happens to be white, is a racist. And that's the reason why she's asking these racist questions.
This is ridiculous. Let it go.
Then you didn't answer the question. How do you justify the cost of this to the taxpayers of Baltimore, the people who live here?
In your racist slant.
Now, if given his wife's nonprofit hundreds of thousands of tax dollars and then spending all this extra money on this elaborate SUV, we haven't even gotten to the mayor's spending spree. So in the city of Baltimore, they issue purchase cards, basically government credit cards for employees. Now, the inspector general in Baltimore looked into how the mayor's office was using those cards, and it found some crazy things.
Inside the wallets of more than 200 government employees. City-issued purchase cards, commonly referred to as P cards. Think of them as company credit cards using taxpayer dollars. The IG finding 468 food-related transactions, totaling $230,000. Of that, $52,000 spent on food and beverages during Orioles and Ravens games inside the mayoral suite at both stadiums. In another instance, an administrator reportedly demanding a, quote, fresh fruit tray available to everyone in the mayor's suite daily. The report also flagging purchases investigators say are flat out prohibited, citing at least one transaction for Tito's vodka during a Ravens game.
So, luxury suites, food, and vodka. That is the way you spend taxpayer money. And it gets even crazier than that. Now, there's a person named Marvin Jones. He's a longtime ally of the mayor. And this is crazy. The mayor decides to spend $4,000 of taxpayer money to have this going away party for Mr. Jones. But the punchline is the guy actually never left. He never quit his job. He is still working there today, making almost $200,000.
And then also, though, I know that your office spent nearly $4,000 on a goodbye party for somebody who never left and is still making almost $200,000. Why is that okay?
Yeah, I think, Mackenzie, we know that you guys want to make this out to be something that is not.
Plus, nearly $4,000 on a going-away party for Marvin James, one of the mayor's longtime allies and aides, who never actually left City Hall. Taxpayers footed the bill for his Bon Voyage event that included $2,600 for crab balls, grilled salmon and other food, $217 for a cake, a balloon arch costing $324, and nearly $400 on foam boards with James's photo on it.
So now, obviously, people are wondering about the appropriateness of spending taxpayer monies in this way. But the mayor says, hold on. If it's not illegal, then it's appropriate.
You guys you're harping on this small amount of money, which you heard again. Nothing illegal was done here.
But is it appropriate?
If it's not illegal, then it's appropriate.
Now think about that for a second. The mayor's standard for spending taxpayer money is as long as technically no one goes to jail. It's like saying it's not illegal to max out the city's credit card at a strip club, but is it appropriate? And the mayor's spending spree didn't stop there. See, about 10 years ago, the mayor's office had about 39 employees for about $5 million. This mayor was like, no, we got to do a lot better than that. So he exploded the budget.
At City Hall, the mayor's office has grown far larger and become far costlier than any other mayor's office in this city's history. 10 years ago, the mayor's office operated with 39 employees and a budget of $5.2 million. Today, however, there are 118 staffers working in the office whose budget has ballooned to $24.7 million, a budget almost 4 times greater than the one just 10 years ago.
Now, the Inspector General subpoenaed all this records from the mayor's office to see how this money was being spent. And when the records came back, the mayor treated it as the Epstein files and redacted everything.
It was 2 months ago when Inspector General Isabel Cumming began requesting financial records related to a Mozzie youth program and Baltimore's Information and Technology Office. But she discovered there was a problem. Her record request had yielded some 200 documents with critical information blacked out.
Very big redactions. I mean, this one, this is a Cash App payment. All I know is that it's a Cash App payment, but where my part of the job, which is to find out who got the money and whether that's legit, that's blacked out. I can't do the job when I'm given documents that look like this.
Yeah, he's redacted the files. Again, it looks like the Epstein files. Those are the level of redactions you see in those documents. So let's just recap real quick. The mayor's wife, who worked for a nonprofit that received about $167,000 in taxpayer-connected money, failed to open the office it was supposed to, stopped operations, is getting sued for not paying rent, and hasn't filed taxes. When it comes to credit cards, the mayor's spending $52,000 on football games and baseball games. He's spending taxpayer money on vodka and $4,000 for a going away party for a guy who didn't go away. Oh yeah, and one thing I forgot to mention, the mayor actually pulled $7 million from a children's fund to cover the budget shortfall because he was kind of recklessly spending a lot of money.
At debate, a funding measure previously reported on by Spotlight on Maryland that sends $16 million taxpayer dollars to the Baltimore Children and Youth Fund nonprofit, which then sends $7 million of those funds to the mayor's Office of Employment Development.
I want to be very careful.
Council member Mark Conway backed Cohen's criticism that the mayor should avoid supplementing his budget through a taxpayer-funded nonprofit.
So I want to make sure that we don't set a precedent that we wouldn't want to be replicated in the future.
A city official said the $7 million going from BCYF to the mayor's office would help continue to fund employment and summer programs for Baltimore kids, such as YouthWorks.
We had a shortfall, and so we approached the BCYF board and asked if they would consider investing to make sure that we were able to maintain that level of support for YouthWorks this year, and we're very grateful that they did.
So I'm going to say it. For those of you who watched the Tiffany Henyard saga play out, this seems like the male version of Tiffany Henyard. Even down to Tiffany's Tahoe, he's got a Jeep. It is insane how close this is. It seems like this guy got into office and didn't realize that, hey, this money comes from somewhere and we have to be responsible with other people's money. But that's the story. Let me know how you feel in the comments section. As always, tell me where I'm wrong because this story is insane. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe to all the great YouTube stuff. My name is Ed the Lawyer. I'm seeing you on the next one. Peace.
We heard your question. You've asked the same idiotic question now for 3 months. Through Trump's media station in Baltimore, which is Fox 45, that this is what they're asking us.
You didn't answer the question. How do you justify the cost of this to the taxpayers of Baltimore, the people who...
In your racist slant, there's one thing. We get it. We understand what you guys are doing. Everybody knows what your MO is. We're not having it.